Hi, hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess, and this is my second time recording this because I'm a mess. That was terrible. Anyway, we're talking about what you all would like to see on Booktube in 2024. I asked this question on my Instagram and also on YouTube. Things you want to see less of, you want to see more of, and not just for me, for Booktube overall. So I got a lot of great responses. There were a lot of similar comments or things that people want to see. So I am going to not go through the individual comments because that's what I was trying to do in the first filming of this and it was just taking me forever. But I did read through all of them already. So I'm just gonna talk through some of the similar themes that I saw throughout the comments or the responses. And you know, everything, I just talk. I work through my thoughts here with you guys, and that's what I do. There's no itinerary for the video, so just buckle up, okay? So one of the main things, I asked this question because, you know, it's been a year for me, and I myself haven't really been watching Booktube content. And so I always like to check in, you know, see what the people are wanting. And I know things that I would like. So of course I wanted to ask you all, the viewers, what you would like to see more of. So one of the big things that I noticed, and you shouldn't be surprised, is about consumerism and buying books. So a lot of people said they want to see less hauls, more like less hauls of people buying books, or at least brand new books. Someone said they'd like to see like a secondhand buying of books. Lots of people said they would love to see library hauls, see what you're checking out from Libby and borrowing, and not always, here's the stack of new books that I bought. Someone mentioned people buying like the same with the overconsumption. And I say that not to like put down their words or anything, just because it depends. I don't know. I don't think some people would think it's overconsumption, and I definitely am a consumer, and I'm working on it. But I am one of those people. So saying people buying multiple copies of the same book, or you know, the special editions from Fairy Loot and the various sub boxes, saying that people buying books because they have FOMO, or they're just buying all these pretty books because of hype. Guilty. I'm guilty, and I get it. And I mean, earlier this year, I said on my channel that I'm going to stop doing hauls because I just didn't enjoy filming them, editing them anymore. So I was like, I don't know, I'm not enjoying this content. I don't want to put it out. And so I stopped. So I'm glad at least I'm there with you all. Since a lot of you don't want to see hauls anyway, I use my library very often for ebooks and audiobooks. I don't go into the library as much to get physical books, but I definitely, and the problem is when I do go to the library and get physical books, then my mood might change. I might not read any of them. So it's like, I could do a library haul, doesn't mean I'm gonna read all of them. But that definitely was a general consensus about overconsumption, about spending money on books that a lot of people seem to not enjoy as much again. And I wanna say here that a lot of these things, you may be like, that's interesting because I see those videos and they do well. But I'm just telling you, obviously I have a small, I don't have this amount. Like obviously I asked this on my YouTube, but that's not everyone who's, I got 84 responses on YouTube, which is actually a lot. I was surprised I got that many. And I don't know how many I got on Instagram, maybe like 40-ish. So obviously that is a small amount of people, but those are the people who responded. So I'm sharing that information, but obviously it doesn't speak for everyone. Okay. A lot of people responded about hype, popular authors, and wanting to see less of that. They acknowledge, a lot of them did acknowledge in their comment that they know that's what gets views and that's why people will read those books, but would like, even if it's, you know, a rant about why the book was terrible, and it's like, well, you just spent all that time and still gave, you know, energy and platform to that very popular book when you could be reading and promoting something else. And at the end of the day, people can read what they want, right? But I'm just saying, these are some of the things that people said that they would like to see people focus on indie books and reviewing those, and trying to give more attention to other books that aren't getting as big of a publicity push or as much hype on TikTok or Instagram. So that's totally valid, and I understand when you get on YouTube, especially after a popular release, and like all the thumbnails are of the same book. It's like, okay, well, I got nothing to watch. So also I saw a few people talking about wanting to see more content about nonfiction books. And also another thing I would like to say about all of these things here is obviously all of the things that are being requested here are out there. There are plenty of people who talk about nonfiction. Sometimes that's literally all they read. There are people who don't do hauls, who only use the library. So like, I know these things are out there, again, because you have to make caveats in the bookish world, or somebody in the comments will be like, ooh, and I don't have time for that. But this is what the responses were. So more nonfiction, and someone said recommendations for nonfiction in regards to like current events. And I obviously am bringing back my Book Community Read Nonfiction Book Club in January. So there'll be some of that there, but you know, maybe some other people will join me in more nonfiction content. But again, I'm not the only one. I am far from the top person talking about nonfiction on Booktube, but I did see it come up a lot. So I just wanted to speak on that. There were actually, and I was not expecting this, a lot of comments about Goodreads. Some comments about wanting booktubers to move away from Goodreads and to use other platforms. Now, I don't know what other platform exists besides Storygraph, and maybe it does. I just have never looked, because someone was saying like, by, you know, us always talking about Goodreads Choice Rewards, we're just giving them publicity and making more people basically use that. And it's owned by Amazon, which is a terrible company, we know. More people were saying that they were tired of the Goodreads content. And I know that. There are a lot of people who like the Goodreads content because obviously those videos do well. But I also did see just a lot of comments that people were like, it's, you know, fine when it's like a video or two, but like the amount of just like nonstop Goodreads content the last month has been a lot. And you know, that's valid. But it's funny, I did have one comment that said, I love longer videos. Binging all the Goodreads awards content has been amazing. So some people still like it. But that's funny going off of that one, because I saw a few people say shorter videos. But then some people were saying, I love me a good long vlog, but over an hour is too much. So obviously you're never going to please everybody, but it's just interesting to look at what the people are saying. I have seen some comments that I did get a few talking about like tags, like original tags. I think used to be a bigger thing in Booktube. I think I did some my first year and kind of fell off. I don't know. I never loved doing tags a lot, but that did come up a couple of times. More variety in books overall that people read. Variety and diversity and identity of the authors, which is just always a talking point and something I still need to work on because, you know, I'm not a perfect person. And I understand, again, the variety. Like I said, when you come on here and you're like, well, everybody's reading a quarter something something. Everyone's reading Fourth Wing. Everyone. And I, as someone who loves to be a hater, okay?
I love the way it feels to be a hater. Something so sweet about thinking that I'm better.
It's a great song if you have not listened to it. But, you know, I love to be a hater. And so I initially went into Fourth Wing planning to hate it, and I didn't. But there is something about being on the hype train that's just different, because I'm usually outside the club. I'm like, boo! I'm usually outside. But this time being in it, I was like, oh, this is kind of noise. This is noise. But I understand wanting different books, because it's like, if everyone's reading the same book, then you're not getting any other recommendations. So that was definitely one. And also under this person saying more books from writers outside of the US and the UK, definitely valid. I feel you there. I also saw some people talking about more in-depth reviews and discussions of the books themselves. Now, I know if you're a creator, you're also like, but when I do these, no one watches them. I know, I know. But I saw multiple people talking about like, not even, and wrap-ups. I'll put wrap-ups here too. They want like good wrap-ups. And maybe it's not every book, but like books you really enjoyed or you have a lot to say, that you give like a more in-depth review about it. Like this person saying like, why the book didn't work for you. How is the character development, the plot, the writing style, the genre, the tropes. Again, I know people are doing this, but I'm just reading what they said. So just more in-depth about what you liked and less just, I really like this, I had fun. And also to that point, I know because I don't feel very like articulate when it comes to reviewing a book. I don't feel like I review something well, I guess. Like I don't think I explain things. They're not coming out of my head. They're not translating from my brain to my mouth in the way that I want them. But when someone does go more in depth like that with a review, definitely get a better idea of if the story is going to work for you or not. So I understand. Again, less hauls, more. A lot of people mention rereading, which I really love that because I normally am a rereader. I haven't reread like any of my favorites in a while, but a few people mentioned rereading. Like someone said they'd love to see rereading, and maybe it's a vlog and it's like a book and you talk about if your feelings changed and why they changed and stuff like that. Also someone said more with talking about a book in depth. In a reading vlog, they feel like they would like to see more of how you feel about the book as you're reading it. They see, here's how I feel at the beginning and I finished it, here are my thoughts. And I know people do this, but just a thing. And a lot of these things I'm taking for myself. So you know what I'm saying? To another thing was more backlist, which, you know, I already said more backlist 2024 because frontlist has been... And also in that, someone was saying more decades, like older books, not just since the 2000s and not just classics, like books that have been coming out. Yeah, that's valid. I mean, I feel like I have maybe a random book here or there that maybe was published in the 70s, maybe was published in the 80s, but like I don't have a lot of super, like, you know, literature beyond then. So definitely may take a little bit more like research to look into like older things, but you know, people have been writing for a long time, so there's older books in the genres that we read. So it definitely just takes a little bit more work, and you might not be able to always easily find it, is a downside depending on how popular it was. People did talk about more collaborations with creators. Like someone was talking about large scale collaborations like what we did with the Goodreads awards. Well, I did it at the beginning of this year and then they did it again. But yeah, a lot of people said that they liked when booktubers collaborate. And so of course I love that too. So hopefully there'll be more of that. I'm sure there will be, but hopefully there'll be more of that and I can be involved. You know what I'm saying? Some people talked about some challenges. I think this can go with like the tags. So some challenges like 7 books in 7 days or readathons, 24-hour reading challenges, stuff like that. I don't know if you'll get that from me because me reading like that 7 books in 7 days, probably never gonna happen. But those are always fun. I know someone also mentioned they really like themed vlogs, and so do I. Not creating them because I can't ever follow through, but watching them is always fun. Someone said more coverage of any genre other than fantasy. More discussion on romance, crime, lit, fake, historical, contemporary. And again, I will say that these things all exist out there. There are romance only or primarily romance booktubers. There's definitely a lot of lit fic booktubers. A lot of them. So they're definitely out there. It just may not be the top ones who come up if you type in Booktube. But trust me, especially with lit fic, it tends to be a lot of bros. But I'm sure there are women or theys and thems who are reading lit fic. But again, YouTube only wants to promote certain people. And so you have to just dig a little deeper. And once you find one person who's like that, then, you know, maybe you get recommended some other who are, you know, more in your niche. But I get wanting to see more genres represented. Also, several comments were talking about audiobooks. Like, people would like to hear more about the audiobooks, about audiobook narrators that are good or not, or how the audiobook experience was, like how that took away from the story or how it made the story better. And I was like, you know, that's a really great point, because I think when I listen to something on audio, I kind of just talk about it, and I don't go, unless it's like a phenomenal audiobook, I don't really go into detail about the audiobook narrator or narrators, etc. Because there's definitely, I can start an audiobook and I'm like, nope, can't do it because of the voice. So that's definitely something I want to keep in mind for next year. Some people mentioned that they don't hate reading, hate seeing people I read all of this so you don't have to, or, you know, I read this series so you don't have to, or people I know I'm gonna hate this but I'm gonna watch it anyway or read it anyway so I can make a rant review, which I have definitely done. But I understand. The whole series, I can't do it. A book, maybe. A whole series, I can't do it. But some people do that, and cool. I just love this person's comment saying, more weird niche interest in book topics. Like, you love learning why bears hibernate, so you read a ton of books about it. Totally random example, I know. Yeah, it's niche, but it's unique and different. Basically, more content about frontlist and arty. So less content about frontlist and arty hype books. Now I want to know why bears, you know, I like that idea. That could be an idea. But that was the overview of the things that people would like to see in 2024. So I want to know, if you're a creator, what do you think about these things? Are they already things you're doing? Anything that you would like to implement? And then if you're a viewer, do these represent what you would like to see? Or if you didn't see, or if I didn't talk about something that you definitely would like to see in 2024, you can make it specific to me or just to Booktube. You can leave it below. And I will definitely be reading those comments for suggestions, because you know I always need help about what content to do. And really, here's the thing, is I have so many video ideas, it's getting up to film them. And then once I film them, it's actually editing them, because I can't tell you how many things go to die on their memory card. It's embarrassing. Anyway, like I said, leave your thoughts down below. Always keep it cute, keep it respectful in the comments, okay? But that's it. Stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, sunscreen, and stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, hydrated. Stay hydrated, blessed, moisturized, hydrated, and sunscreen. Wow. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.